When I retired, I thought this duty was over." He paused and looked at Brandon, Jake, and Tyler. "But I was wrong. My duty wasn't over. It continues in a different way now, helping young people build character, teaching them true values." He couldn't finish his words because tears had come. Everyone stood up and applauded. That evening, as Frank was returning home, he felt happier than he had in years. He had found his purpose. He had earned respect. And most importantly, he realized he had experiences to pass on to the new generation. The change in Brandon, Jake, and Tyler wasn't limited to their personal development. They also became examples for other young members coming to Iron Paradise Gym. Disrespect, belittling, and ego competition gave way to cooperation, support, and mutual development. Frank's training methods became legendary at the gym. People from other cities began coming to train with Frank. A year later, Frank received a Community Contribution Award from the local municipality. At the award ceremony, the young people Frank had trained took the stage and told about the change he had made in their lives. "Brandon, Mr. Morrison taught me that strength is character, not muscles. Jake, he showed me that service is not just a job, but a mission. Tyler, thanks to Frank, I found my real purpose in life." When Frank received the award, he said, "The real reward is seeing young people on the right path. They are my legacy." This story is summarized by a plaque still hanging on the walls of Iron Paradise Gym. Real strength lies in the respect you show. Real success is in the development of others. Real leadership is being a quiet example. Master Chief Frank Morrison. Frank Morrison, at 71, still works as a trainer at that gym. But now he doesn't just do sports training. He also does life coaching. And every morning when he opens the gym at 5:30, he doesn't just see an old man in the mirror across the wall. He sees Master Chief Frank Morrison, the legendary trainer who raised America's heroic warriors and now shapes tomorrow's leaders. Conclusion. Frank Morrison's story teaches us this: age is just a number. Real strength is character. And the most important lessons sometimes come from the most unexpected places. When those young men first saw Frank, they saw only an old trainer. But in reality, he was a master, a mentor, a life changer. When you judge the people around you, think once more. That ordinary-looking person might be the greatest teacher who could change your life. The lesson Frank taught wasn't just about physical fitness. It was about the strength that comes from serving others, the power that comes from quiet dignity, and the respect that must be earned through character, not just muscle. In a world obsessed with appearances, Frank Morrison proved that true strength is invisible until the moment it's needed most. And when that moment comes, it doesn't announce itself with fanfare. It simply acts, protects, and inspires, just as real heroes have always done. The young men who once mocked old Frank learned that day that legends don't always look legendary. Sometimes they look like tired grandfathers pushing cleaning carts. Sometimes they look like quiet janitors mopping floors. And sometimes they look like old trainers who can barely lift the weights that younger men throw around casually. But when the moment calls for it, when respect is finally given where it's due, these invisible heroes reveal themselves, not through boasting or demanding recognition, but through the quiet demonstration of skills, character, and strength that can only come from a lifetime of service to something greater than themselves. Frank Morrison's story reminds us to look closer, listen better, and respect deeper. Because the next time you see someone struggling with weights that seem too heavy for them, remember, you might be watching a hero who once carried the weight of the world on his shoulders. Jake turned to Tyler. "Do you realize how stupid we've been?" The third exercise was Frank's most famous workout, Hell Week Simulation. For 15 minutes straight, high intensity, a combination that also tested mental endurance. Soldiers! Frank's voice echoed throughout the gym. This isn't just physical exercise, it's mental warfare. The moment you want to give up is when you discover your real strength. In operations, the enemy doesn't wait for you. Fatigue is not an excuse. The SEALs were sweating, breathless, but never stopped, never complained. Frank walked among them, sometimes shouting, sometimes motivating, sometimes quietly providing support. After 15 minutes, the SEALs collapsed to the ground, exhausted. But there was happiness on their faces. They had faced real challenges and exceeded their limits. Frank turned to them. "Well done, soldiers. Was this an easy workout for you?" "No, Master Chief." "What did you learn?" "Strength is in character, Master Chief." Frank smiled. "Correct. Now rest." At this point, everyone in the gym was beginning to understand Frank's true identity. But the real shock was yet to come. Commander Rodriguez stood up and approached Frank. He took a small box from his pocket and did something that shocked everyone. He knelt on one knee. "Master Chief Morrison, on behalf of all SEAL teams," he opened the box. Inside was a shining medal. "For your 30 years of service, for saving the lives of thousands of operators. Thank you." Frank's eyes filled with tears. This was the recognition he couldn't receive at his retirement ceremony. "Michael, get up, son. This wasn't necessary. Master Chief, you weren't just a trainer to us. You were a father, a guide, a hero." At this point, young SEAL operator Jake Peterson stepped forward. "Master Chief, can I tell you something?" Frank nodded. "In 2019, in Afghanistan, I was wounded in an IED attack. My left leg was shattered. Doctors said I wouldn't be able to walk. But I used the mental resilience techniques you taught us. Giving up is not an option. There's always an alternative. You used to say, remember?" Frank remembered. This was one of his most famous sayings. "Now I'm here, Master Chief. I'm walking, running, serving. Thanks to you." Everyone in the gym had tears in their eyes. Brandon, Jake, and Tyler were ashamed and wanted to sink into the ground. Frank hugged Peterson. "You're a strong soldier, Jake. I just provided guidance." Commander Rodriguez gathered the team. "Master Chief, we have to go now, but our door is always open. Our respect is always with you." The SEALs said goodbye to Frank one by one. Everyone saluted him respectfully. Then, just as they had arrived, they left the gym in an orderly fashion. Frank was left standing there, sweaty, tired, but for the first time in 3 years, there was genuine happiness in his eyes. Brandon, Jake, and Tyler quietly approached. Brandon spoke first. "Mr. Morrison, we're sorry." Frank turned to them. There was no anger on his face, no disappointment, just understanding. "You don't need to apologize, Brandon. But we belittled you. We were disrespectful." Frank raised his hand. "You're young men. You measure strength by muscle mass. That's normal. But real strength is something else." Jake asked, "What is real strength, Mr. Morrison?" Frank thought, real strength is not giving up in difficult times. Real strength is risking yourself to protect others. Real strength is being respectful, even when you're not shown respect. Tyler asked shamefully, "Can we change? I mean, can we be strong like you?" Frank smiled. "Of course. But this doesn't happen just with physical training. Character training is also needed." From that day on, Iron Paradise Gym changed completely. Brandon, Jake, and Tyler began taking not just physical training from Frank, but life lessons too. Frank taught them real discipline, not just weightlifting, but right living, being respectful, taking responsibility, serving others. Brandon changed his approach in the real estate business. He began seeing helping clients realize their dreams rather than just selling them houses. Jake transformed his fitness training from a money-making tool into a mission to help people live better lives. Tyler found his direction in life. With Frank's support, he took the firefighter exams and passed. Now he was truly working in the life-saving business. 3 months later, Frank's birthday arrived. Brandon, Jake, and Tyler organized a surprise party. Not only all members of Iron Paradise came, but also SEAL operators who were Frank's former students. Commander Rodriguez spoke at the ceremony. Master Chief Morrison continues to train not only soldiers, but also people in civilian life. This is his true mission. It was Frank's turn to speak. The old man stood up and looked at everyone. For 30 years, I trained warriors. I made them physically strong, but more importantly, I built their characters. Frank, however, was old, quiet, and not physically impressive. Is this guy really a trainer? Brandon had whispered on the first day. He can't lift half of what I can, Jake had laughed. He's probably the owner's relative or something. They're employing the old man out of pity. Tyler was more ruthless. I don't want this guy appearing in the stories I post on Instagram. What would customers think? Over time, their attitude toward Frank shifted from mockery to ridicule. They started calling him Old Frank. They would watch his physical training and laugh, make jokes about him with other gym members, and sometimes even make social media posts about him. Frank pretended not to hear any of this. He would quietly do his workout, serve his customers respectfully, and never get into arguments with anyone. However, at home alone at night, these young men's behavior saddened him. One evening, he received a call from his old SEAL friend, Commander Robert Hayes. "Frank, how are you, buddy? We've missed you." Frank's voice was tired. "I'm fine, Rob. How are you? How are things going? You don't sound fine. What's going on?" Frank hesitated, then opened up. "The young men here, I'm just an old man to them. No respect, no appreciation. It's like I haven't done anything for 30 years. Commander Hayes remained silent, then said, "Frank, you're one of the strongest men I know. Not just physically, but your character is strong too. Those young men don't yet know what real strength is." "Maybe you're right, Rob, but sometimes a person wants to be appreciated. Frank, you'll have a surprise visit tomorrow morning. Be ready." The next morning, March 15th, Frank arrived at the gym at 5:30 as usual. He started his routine: lights, music system, equipment check. At 6 o'clock, he began his own workout. At 6:15, the gym door opened and 12 men entered, all at once, in perfect synchronization. Though dressed in civilian clothes, their posture, walk, and gaze gave them away. These were Navy SEALs. The man leading the group was Commander Michael Rodriguez, a determined-looking man in his 40s with black hair. As soon as he saw Frank, he immediately came to attention and saluted, "Master Chief Morrison." With these words, the other 11 men simultaneously came to attention and saluted respectfully. The atmosphere of the gym instantly changed. Brandon, Jake, and Tyler were doing cardio at that moment. When they saw this scene, they froze in shock. Why were these military-looking men saluting old Frank? For the first time in months, a genuine smile appeared on Frank's face. His eyes watered, but he controlled his voice. "At ease, soldiers. This isn't a military base." Commander Rodriguez stepped forward. "Master Chief, do you know that we're alive because of your training programs? In every operation, in every difficult moment, we use what you taught us." Frank nodded humbly. "What are you doing here, Michael? I thought I was retired." "You are retired, Master Chief, but what you taught us will never retire. We came from San Diego. The whole team wants to do a workout with you." Meanwhile, everyone else working out at the gym had stopped and was watching this conversation. Brandon, Jake, and Tyler were in complete shock. Frank thought, this was an opportunity to prove himself. He could show the young men what real strength was. "All right, soldiers, but this place has rules. We'll be training alongside civilians." Commander Rodriguez smiled. "No problem, Master Chief. We'll all adapt." Frank stepped forward and raised his voice. "Everyone listen to me. There's going to be a special training session now. Those who want to watch can watch, but don't interfere." All the gym patrons gathered around Frank. Brandon, Jake, and Tyler were still in shock. How was old Frank getting so much respect? Frank turned to the SEALs. "We'll do a 30-minute combat conditioning session. Functional strength, cardiovascular endurance, mental resilience. Ready?" "Ready, Master Chief," they replied in unison. Frank's voice suddenly changed. He was no longer the old, quiet trainer. He was Master Chief Morrison, the commander who had trained America's most elite warriors. First exercise, burpee pull-up combination. 10 burpees, 5 pull-ups, 5 sets. Begin. The SEALs immediately sprang into action. Perfect form, synchronized movement, no complaints. Frank walked among them, making form corrections and giving motivational talks. "Rodriguez, pull your arms stronger. Jackson, tighten your core. Peterson, you're losing breath control." Everyone watching was mesmerized. This old man was directing America's strongest warriors as if they were children. Second exercise, functional strength circuit, kettlebell swings, battle rope, tire flip, sled push. Frank demonstrated form at each station, and the SEALs applied the techniques they learned from his example. Brandon whispered to Jake, "This isn't possible. How does that old man know so much?" Frank Morrison looked like any other retired gym teacher. Gray hair, reading glasses, and a bench press that wouldn't impress anyone under 30. But when the most elite soldiers in the American military suddenly appeared and began executing combat drills based on his whispered commands, the young bodybuilders who'd been laughing at his weak old man routine were about to discover what real strength looked like. What these muscle-obsessed kids didn't know was that Frank Morrison wasn't just any trainer. He was Master Chief Morrison, the man whose fitness protocols had prepared Navy SEALs for missions in Iraq, Afghanistan, and classified operations they'd never hear about. The barbell might not know his name, but every Special Forces operator in America did. Let me know where you're watching from in the comments below. And if you believe real strength comes from character, not age, hit that subscribe button, because tomorrow's special episode reveals how military trainers hide in plain sight in civilian life in ways you've never imagined. The Iron Paradise Gym in Phoenix was shrouded in silence at 5:30 a.m. The neon lights hadn't yet reached full brightness, and heavy metal music hadn't started blaring from the speakers. At this hour, the only person in the gym was 68-year-old Frank Morrison. Frank followed the same routine every morning. He'd unlock the door, turn on the lights, check the equipment, and begin his own workout before 6 a.m. With his neatly trimmed gray hair, steel-framed glasses, and clean but worn workout clothes, he looked no different from any retired teacher. But Frank Morrison was not an ordinary retiree. For 30 years, he had been Master Chief Frank Morrison, the man who trained America's most elite warriors. Now, for the past 3 years, he'd been working part-time as a trainer at this small Phoenix gym, trying to make ends meet. Frank's military background dated back to 1972, to the final years of the Vietnam War. When he volunteered at age 18, his physical strength and leadership abilities were quickly recognized. After the war, Frank continued his military career, specializing in physical conditioning and combat preparation. In the 1980s, Frank was tasked with redesigning the physical training curriculum for Navy SEAL programs. At that time, existing training programs were traditionally strength-focused: heavy weights, high repetitions, muscle mass building. Frank brought a different approach. Real strength isn't the weight you lift, but the performance you can deliver in critical moments, he would say in his training sessions. Frank's design program combined functional strength, mental endurance, and operational fitness. For 30 years, thousands of SEAL candidates had gone through Frank's program. His training methods had saved lives in Afghanistan's mountainous terrain, Iraq's desert conditions, Africa's humid forests, and classified operations around the world. Frank's training philosophy was simple. The body can be strong, but if the spirit isn't strong, you'll collapse at the first difficulty. The spirit can be strong, but if the body isn't ready, you can't complete the mission. The perfect harmony of both makes you invincible. In 2018, Frank retired after 35 years of military service. After a career filled with Medal of Honor, Bronze Star, Silver Star, and countless letters of commendation, he settled in Phoenix. His wife Margaret had died of cancer in 2019. His 2 children lived in different states, and he saw his grandchildren a few times a year. Struggling with loneliness and a sense of purposelessness, Frank had accepted the trainer job at Iron Paradise Gym. The owner, Tony Ricardo, knew about Frank's military background, but hadn't delved into the details. Frank preferred not to elaborate either. Iron Paradise was a modern gym favored by Phoenix's young professionals and college students. With state-of-the-art equipment, perfect mirrors for social media, and a high-energy atmosphere, it was popular. Among the gym's regulars, 3 young men stood out: 24-year-old Brandon Mitchell, 26-year-old Jake Stevens, and 23-year-old Tyler Brooks. All 3 were seriously into bodybuilding and trying to become fitness influencers on Instagram. Brandon was a handsome young man working at a real estate company. He worked out 2 hours a day, followed his nutrition program meticulously, and felt very special because he could bench press 180 kilos. Jake worked as a personal trainer and was trying to start his own fitness consulting business. With his strong physique and charismatic personality, he had no trouble finding clients. Tyler was an unemployed college graduate. He treated bodybuilding as a hobby, but hadn't yet found his direction in real life. The gym with his friends was the center of his social life. When these 3 young men first saw Frank, they were disappointed. The trainers they knew from modern gyms were usually muscular, energetic, motivational people.